Welcome to Mr. Paul's Pantry. I'm Mr. Paul and I hope you enjoy my recipe today. Now this is something I've had lots and lots of requests to make, and it was so simple I just kept putting it off because I thought everybody knew how to do it. But it's a recipe that's centuries old and loved by most of the population. It's actually Scottish shortbread. And with Christmas looming, I shall be making lots of it in the next few days because I box it up in nice fancy boxes and give it to quite a lot of my friends and customers. So I'll show you how to do it. It's 3 ingredients plus a pinch of salt, and that's it. Let's do it. So here we are. These are the ingredients. It's 375 grams of plain flour. You might know it as all-purpose flour. It's 250 grams of butter. It's 125 grams of caster sugar, or you can use icing sugar if you wish. I prefer to use caster sugar. It gives a nice bit of crunch when it's cooked. And a pinch of salt. That's it, nothing else. So let's get cracking. So here we go. We've got the 375 grams of flour, the plain flour, and we've got the 250 grams of butter. Now I must stress, this must be at room temperature. If it's too hard, it's very, very hard work. It needs to be at room temperature, and this is how soft mine is, if you can see. It's been sitting out now for several hours in the kitchen, and it's quite warm in my kitchen today. In there, and the sugar, and 1 pinch of salt. That's all, no more. What we need to do now is we need to blend all this together. Now you can use a mixer for this if you want. It does take quite a while with your hands, but I find using a mixer, it makes it too, I don't know what I can explain it as. It makes it very pasty, and I can't explain it, but I prefer to use my hand for it. I know commercial producers of really good shortbreads up in Scotland. They have special machines made. They don't just use ordinary pastry type mixing machines. They have a special machine that mixes. I think they're a little bit like commercial bread dough mixers, but they're gentle but firm, if you understand what I mean. So this is going to take quite a while, and you need to keep kneading this together until it comes into a nice smooth paste, and this should take you about 5 minutes. So here we are. Now I'd actually timed this while I was mixing it, and it was 4.5 minutes. I turned the camera off because I didn't want you to sit watching me. I'm sure you didn't want to watch it, me kneading it for 4 minutes. Funny, I watched a video the other night, and it was a 30-minute video, and in the comments underneath afterwards there was dozens of them saying, "Can't believe this, a 30-minute video to prepare a 10-minute meal." I don't know how they found something to talk about for half an hour. Now that's the paste we've finished up with. Okay, it's a bit like pastry. It's soft, it's pliable, it's nice. Now shortbread can come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Sometimes it's made in a tin like this, in a round, and divided into quarters. They're called petticoat tails. Or you may have a tin similar to this. I don't use that, that comes out. Fill that, it has a loose bottom. You fill that with your paste, mark it into fingers, prick with a fork, and cook. Then you can lift it out easily with the loose bottom like that. Also you can buy these, which are very, very similar, but they have a fluted side already built in, and do exactly the same. Fill the paste, level it off and mark it into fingers, and then when it's cooked they just break off into individual biscuits. Or you can roll out your paste and cut them into fingers instead of putting in this dish, and put them individually on a tin like this. I'm going to do these two today to show you how it works. Right. So here we are. We're going to get some of these in the oven now. First of all, I'm going to make the petticoat tails. This is made in any shallow tin or dish or flan tin, anything at all. I've just put a bit of parchment in the bottom just in case anything sticks. Now, there's no need to roll this with a rolling pin. Actually, it can go straight into the tin, and we just push it out with our fingers to fit. Now you can make these as thick or as thin as you wish. I don't like them too thin because first of all they catch very easily in the oven when they're baking if they're very thin, and secondly they tend to be a bit dry when you're eating them. I like to make it like that, then take something just to divide it into 4 like that, and then we're going to use the fork and we're going to just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 make little holes along it like that. This is a traditional decoration for Scottish shortbreads, but it also serves a purpose. It allows moisture to escape from the paste during cooking, and that helps to crisp it up a lot quicker. Can you see that? Okay. Now we're going to make some some fingers. Need to roll this with a rolling pin at this stage. Now what we don't need to do, we don't need to add any flour. That's most important, because if we start adding flour you will upset the recipe and that won't do. So I'm using a non-stick mat, but if you have a marble top or something like that, my work surface is a stainless steel and they're not as non-stick as a marble top. So we cut it, roll it like that, about 1/2 inch thick, doesn't need to be too thin, and then we're going to cut some fingers. Now I like to cut them I cut them freehand. I don't bother cutting them very neat. In the shop we always had what's called a Sharon cutter, which is like a lazy tongue thing with wheels on, and you can make it a wider and then you just run it down and all these wheels just cut a little, but I don't use that at home. I just use this method. So there we are. And those are my fingers that I'm going to put on my baking sheet like this. I won't put it there, it'll block the camera. Make my little marks just the same as I did on the petticoat tails with the fork. You don't need to go right through, just in the top. And as I said, this will help crisp them up afterwards. Now, there's lots of variations on the recipe for this shortbread. Quite a lot of people add things like rice flour or corn flour or various other things. It doesn't really need anything like that, just the 3 ingredients that I've shown you, and that is butter, sugar and flour. I'll make a few more just to fill that tray up with, and then we'll pop them in the oven. Now they need to go in the oven at 160 centigrade. I will put the conversions underneath the video in what's called the information box, or I don't know what they call it. It doesn't actually say what it's called underneath, but underneath the video, if you just scroll down, you will see some information, and if you don't see what I'm talking about, it'll say see more. Just click on that and it'll take you to a little bit more. It gives the links to my website and to the recipe and everything else and the ingredients. So we're going to take that like that. You can leave them as long or as short as you want, make them as big as you want, it doesn't make any difference. If I'm doing these for a party, I just do little small squares, and then it looks like there's piles of them on the plate. They just help themselves to them. There we are. I mean, if you want to be neater than, I mean, when we had the shops, everyone had to be the same size, of course, so we used, as I said, this share and cutter. But with this, I just make them any size, doesn't matter. Sorry, that's supposed to be a non-stick mat there, but it's not worked. Right, so there we are. They're going to go in the oven, as I said, and they'll be in the oven at 160 for about 20 to 25 minutes. Now, if you do see them getting too brown, take them out, because they should only be colouring just slightly around the edges, and that's when they're done. Don't lift them out and have a feel, don't, or you'll be fooled. They'll still be very, very soft, like they're not cooked at all. You need to take them out and let them cool, and then they harden. So you take them out and put them onto a wire rack. I'll see you in 25 minutes. This, by the way, is the share and cutter we used to use when we had the shops. It's little cutting wheels on here, you can see them, and you can make it as wide or as narrow as you want. So once you get your thickness you want for your shortbreads, tighten it up, and it's as simple as that. You just run it along your pastry, and if you've got long bits of pastry on a big table, it's very, very easy, and it just cuts you every one the same size. Like that. I thought you'd just like to know that. And there we have the finished product. Petticoat tails and shortbread fingers. Now the taste test. Just as I thought, absolutely beautiful. Nice and buttery, nice and crisp. And what I forgot to tell you is, when I lifted them out of the oven, whilst they're still hot, I just put a sugar shaker and sprinkle some caster sugar on top of them. So just a little bit, that's all. And while it's hot, it makes it stick on top. And they're absolutely delightful. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, give it a like underneath the video, a thumbs up, and leave a comment if you want. And also, if you have any ideas or recipes you want me to show you how to do in future, leave those in the comment section as well. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!